Good evening. Thankful that you're here with us. This is something new that we're going to try here at First Methodist. We know that you get to have our worship service that we live stream and have on cable channel 72 at both services, but we want to just have a time where we can have conversations with one another, where we can answer your questions, where I can have a conversation with a staff person, maybe a church member or another pastor. And so this is something a little different. We'd love to get your feedback, and maybe you'd like to tell us some things you'd like to see us discuss for our time at 6:30 on Sunday night every week. Just want to say happy Thanksgiving. I hope everyone had a great time with family, lots of food and fellowship. I know for me, I will start my diet tomorrow to make room for Christmas food that I will, I'm sure, indulge in. But just welcome you here to these conversations that we're having here at Grenada First Methodist. Madison Porter's here with us. She is our new youth pastor. She's been here a couple of months now, but she's not new to our church. She actually started as an intern with Jason, and we hired her as a tweens minister to start a tweens ministry. And then whenever Jason found a job and took a job at St. Matthew's United Methodist in Madison, Madison was here and had already made relationships with so many of our church members and our youth parents, and it was just a logical choice. Very talented, very skillful, and being able to do this. So we're going to get to know Madison a little bit better. We're going to talk about Elevate, and then I'm going to share with you kind of some dreams and visions that we have for this spot on Sunday nights going forward. So Madison, I'm glad you came. It's a dreary day today. I know most folks are probably taking a few naps. It's raining outside. It's cold. Recovering from the turkey coma. But tell me, you were an intern here. Even whenever you were an intern here, just tell us, was it a complete surprise whenever God called you into ministry, or did you kind of feel a tug coming to First Methodist as an intern? Just whenever, I know I approached you for the job, and we had that conversation together, but just kind of tell me, was it 2 years ago, would you have thought you'd be a full-time youth director?
I'm going to say no because I don't know how many people know this, but so I interned here in 2019, but Jason also asked me to be the intern in 2018, and I had told him no.
You trying to do down?
Jason asked me in 2018 to be the intern. I was like, no, I'm good. I'm good with going to state, doing my own thing, not really interested in that, not really qualified to work in ministry, don't really feel called to work in ministry. So I turned him down in 2018, and then I went with the church to El Salvador that summer. And that was my first mission trip, first time flying, first 9 yards, everything. And, so I went with them that summer, and then I've just kind of had a connection or relationship with Jason over the years, as far as through the journey and then through that mission trip. And then 2019 came around, he was like, hey, ask you again this summer, you want to be the intern. I was like, well, why not? Let's try it. He asked me 2 years in a row, so maybe, there's a reason for it. And so I came in, I guess, June of 2019. That sounds right. May, June 2019. And if you would have asked me even 6 months before that, I would have told you that this was the last, population that I want to work with. Teens, yeah. I was like, this is the last thing that I want to do. But at my first event, I knew that it was exactly where I was supposed to be.
I remember you called me. You were working at Mosquito Burrito in Cleveland, and you were, trying to go to school full time, trying to work part-time jobs. And I remember having that conversation. It was late one night, and just saying, this may be God making you uncomfortable where you are to call you somewhere else. And so I'm glad you answered the call to be a part of our church family here and the ministries here. And so very thankful. So I have to ask you, you didn't grow up in the Methodist church, and I know every church has its own traditions, its own way of doing things. Even our committees are called different things. I know I have to tell whenever I'm visiting with Baptist friends, instead of saying SBRC, I have to say personnel committee, because that's how most churches call it. And Methodists are like the military. We are the best at acronyms. We have more acronyms than probably any other institution. So What are some things, whenever you first attended the church, first Methodist church you went to was more Memorial in Winona. What are some things that we did that really just caught you off guard? You said, what in the world is going on?
So I've always been Baptist. I visited more Memorial in probably like 2017. It was Easter and confirmation, so there was just like a lot of things going on.
Lots of divisions.
Very like, it was like a culture shock because like in the Baptist church, like they, say back row Baptist, and like my family were a big back row Baptist. But
we got back row Baptist.
I know, I've noticed that, but like that was, I don't know, like that was a shock because there was a lot going on that day. But like coming here, I would say like the Apostles' saying the Apostles' Creed like can be very intimidating, I guess, because it's kind of like if you don't know like what you're saying or like what's going on, and then like y'all don't necessarily do altar calls, but like using the altar and stuff like that. Like I had a friend that came to me and they're like, what are these knee pads like that you do? And I was like, so I had to like kind of explain that to them. And then like y'all's communion's different. Like y'all do like open communion, which I like that because like as a kid I never could, in the Baptist church I never could understand why I couldn't take communion until like I was saved and baptized and like older. And I like the fact that the children are getting to experience that, like being exposed to that.
Right.
But
and I'll say this, that's probably one of my most favorite things about Methodist theology is the open communion, and a lot of people don't understand that because different traditions do different things. You have to be adults, or you have to be of the age of accountability, or you have to be baptized, and so you may already know this, but some of our folks may not. The reason that we practice open communion, that means anybody can walk in and maybe the first time they've ever been in church, they can receive communion, is because John Wesley thought that it was a salvific event. You could be saved by taking communion, and so he didn't want to hinder anybody from taking it. And so whenever, some of the sweetest things in worship as a pastor is whenever a child is able to get their own bread, and usually I know my kids, they get like a fistful of the bread and eat it. It is one of the most precious things to see children participate in the sacraments. So you mentioned the Apostles' Creed. So many of you may have noticed we've been doing something different than the Apostles' Creed for a couple of months. It's the Nicene Creed. And yes, my wife, Emily, would say that that's one of the more awkward moments whenever she first started attending the Methodist Church. It was almost a very rote, memorized chant, if you will. What are some other things that kind of caught you off guard?
I would say, like, for example, like I had a friend here the other day, and she said, at 4:00, like, we're going to pray for my aunt that has COVID. I was like, well, hey, we're at the church. Like, why don't we go to the sanctuary, utilize, like, the sanctuary, the altar, like, while we're here. And we were talking about Methodism and stuff. And one thing that I told her is the sweetest thing about Methodism that I've found so far is that you see people pray that you wouldn't see pray. Like, sitting in the Baptist church, which I'm not knocking it, just as, like, a compare and contrast. Like, sitting in the Baptist church, like, you don't have anybody that goes down to the altar and prays. You know what I mean? Like, you have nobody that goes and that kneels. But at the Methodist church, whether it's taking communion, whether it's just at the end of the service, you see people from the congregation, people that sit by you, people that you would have never seen kneel down and pray before, kneel down and pray. Like, even if that's the only time that you see that, like, you see it there. And that's, like, even at D-Now, our kids are one of, even before I was the intern youth minister, I worked D-Now for Jason. And our kids are some of the only kids that go down to the altar. But there's no hesitation in it. Like, it's natural to them. And I think that's important because that is, like, they're not ashamed. You know what I mean? Like, they're not ashamed. Like, they're open. They feel comfortable to go down there and to go down there with, like, their peers and to pray. And I feel like that's, like, that was another thing that it took me a while to get. But then once I saw it, it was, like, so sweet and so surreal, I guess you'd say.
One of the most powerful worship services since I've been here as a pastor. You go out on a limb whenever a pastor preaches and you say, I'll encourage you to come to the altar and pray. You don't ever know what kind of response you're going to get. And there was one particular Sunday, I can't remember what day it was, I can't even remember what I was preaching on, but I invited everybody, this is a time for the church to pray. Why don't you come down and spend some time in prayer or pray at your pew? And I'll never forget, the whole altar was full, and there were people standing on the walls waiting in line, if you will, to come and pray. From our perspective as ministers, as people who work in the church, that's probably as rewarding as anything we could ever experience. And that, growing up in Morton United Methodist Church, the altar was always open.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes other denominations, if you go down to the altar, there's an assumption that you need to get saved, if you will, or you're coming for repentance, or you're coming. And I'm thankful that we have an altar that's open, that you can come and pray regardless of what the burden is.
Yeah.
You can go and listen, and it's just a powerful thing. So, what else? Anything else?
I would say the acolytes was another thing. I was like, why do these kids have like a torch and a dress on? Like the first time I came, I was like, what is going on? But
so, funny thing about acolytes, I'm glad we call them acolytes, because they used to be called Lucifers. Did you know that?
No, I did not know.
So Lucifer means light bearer, and so it used to be called the Lucifers, would come down and light the candles. Yeah, especially with the robes, right? The albs. We used to have the albs. Now we have the more traditional surplices, and so I've heard others say that. In some churches it's not just children. In Mississippi and other churches I've served, it's traditionally children. But in some churches, it's adults too. Could you imagine having some of our adults dress up in robes and coming down? But yeah, I could see how that would kind of catch you off guard. Well, today in church, I was talking about symbols and Advent, and whenever we decorate the sanctuary, we have all these different symbols that we decorate with. The Chrismon tree is a Christmas tree that has different Chrismons instead of decorations, and it has different imagery. I saw one this morning that has the Greek chi symbol, and of course that's the first letter in Greek for Christ. But something people always, since y'all didn't give me questions, the hard questions to answer, a question I always get is, why is IHS on the altar table? And it's actually on the crucifer behind us, the cross.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the cross, I think, on the altar table. Want to take a stab at it?
I don't
what
know
IHS is? So IHS is the first three Greek letters of Jesus' name in Greek. And so people always ask that. But there's so many symbols around us that points us to why we do certain things. And I'll challenge the congregation this morning, if you don't know what those symbols represent, they become simply decorations.
Yeah.
And so hopefully over the next couple of weeks, we'll talk about some of those symbols that are in our sanctuary and answer some of those questions and make you a little more knowledgeable about why we do certain things and make it more meaningful for you. So you got some big things coming up with you. You started as a youth minister here. As soon as you started, we were in the middle of a pandemic. How many months was it before you got to meet with the youth group as the youth director?
We met in June, but then we were shut down until probably October. So June, July, August, September, about 4 months probably.
4 months. So you were the youth director, didn't get to gather with the youth. What is the most encouraging thing about youth ministry right now going on at First Methodist?
What, pandemic, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic?
Any of it, all of the above?
I would say the most encouraging thing, despite the pandemic, despite meeting on Zoom and not meeting the kids, is the kids that want to be here and the kids that thrive and that love the youth ministry. You can see it. Like, you can see it from us meeting to us not meeting to us being in the pandemic. Like, you can see those who this youth ministry like really is like a big part of their life and like a big important just like aspect in their life. And another thing is like the community among the kids. I was on a Zoom call the other day with Youth Ministers of Mississippi, and we were talking about like how our youth ministry and the shape of our youth ministry has changed. And that's one thing I told them is we usually do small groups, but we haven't done small groups lately because of shortage of volunteers, not knowing what kids, just everything just kind of being out of whack. But one of the greatest things I've seen from us not having small groups is kids who you don't see hanging out or talking to each other, making those relationships, making those friendships, and just seeing them like as a group, just to be happy to just be together, like in general. But I would say that's the most positive thing. I thrive more off of seeing them than I think they do off of seeing me, though.
And we've seen that with the adults too. That's a common thing. I mean, we've got community groups that are starting or have started, and it's been very impactful. I think everybody is kind of has this desire for community. Even those of us who are introverts who would think a pandemic would be the best time of our lives whenever we don't have to interact, but we all crave and need that community. So that's the most exciting thing. What's the most challenging thing right now?
I would say like the unknown. Like, for example, like with the school systems and like the kids being quarantined, like the entire band got quarantined like a month or 2 months ago. And I would say the most challenging thing is having that fear too in the back of your head of when is the next time that they're going to shut us down. Yeah. Like, when will I not be able to see them in person again? Or when's the next time that I'll have to send that text canceling something? Because like that would be like the most challenging thing right now, I would say, is to have them all back and see like the light on their faces and to see them all interacting together, and then to have that taken away from them like again is the hardest thing, especially whenever you're like you have to be the bearer of bad news. Like, hey, I can't.
You, right?
Exactly. Well, yeah, they're like, come on, like, can't we, do this or this? And I would say like that's like it's awesome when you're the bearer of good news. Like, hey, like, we're gonna do this awesome thing, but like when you're the one that's like, hey, like, we gotta cancel because of that national pandemic, like, it's not as fun. That's the hard part of the job.
Yeah, it is, and we've all felt it here. I think all pastors have felt it. The constant need to be creative, to keep the connection, to keep the relationships going, and not knowing what's around the corner. Somebody asked me this morning, what are we going to do about Christmas Eve? I didn't have an answer. I mean, we've talked about what we're going to do for Christmas Eve, but it's hard. It's hard to make plans and to set them in stone whenever you don't know what's coming.
You have to plan to replan.
That's right.
For a future plan.
But you get that's exactly. But we have to plan. We have to do that, and so we got big plans.
Yeah.
Big new things going on with the youth group. Tell us a little bit about we're not doing D Now, we're not doing Breakthrough. What big's going on with youth?
All right, so this year we are going to go to Elevate. So Elevate is a youth conference in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and we're going to go the weekend of D Now. We're going to go Martin Luther King weekend. And this is something new for the kids. They'll have an opportunity to ski, to snowboard. If they don't want to ski or snowboard, they can. We're going to find other activities in the area for them to do. So this is an opportunity for new kids to come. This is an opportunity for new chaperones. It's an opportunity for a new event. We usually have, we missed all our summer camps this summer because of the pandemic. Yeah. We're not doing Breakthrough this year. D-Now, so that's not going to, a lot of churches aren't doing D-Now this year either because of the pandemic. So this is an opportunity for the kids to go and to do something big and to do something new and do something together. But, so a few due dates for that is, so deposits are going to be due on the 9th. And then those are the $100 deposits for chaperones and kids. Okay. And then they have an option to do 2 payment plans of, they can pay like the second half on December 30th and then the third half on January 13th. And then we're going to do some fundraisers too.
Okay, so fundraisers, I know the next 2 Wednesday nights and Sunday, you're going to see an envelope-a-thon?
Yes.
Okay. And so each envelope will have a youth profile, a profile of one of our young people inside the envelope, a statement from them, and you can contribute to the cost for Elevate. You can also, and many of you already have, just make a donation towards the cost of the trip. It doesn't have to be the full amount, but whatever amount you'd like to contribute would be helpful. And that's part of the trouble that we're facing right now with this trip is that we haven't been able to do fundraisers because of the pandemic. We haven't been able to do what we normally like, dessert auction. I mean, the youth auction that we normally have after church. And so we really ask that you'd help some of these kids sign up or be able to go. 29 people signed up on Wednesday night?
Yeah, we had probably 29 to 30 kids sign up. And that's not including friends. That's not including the youth that weren't here. That's not including.
That was
like,
the first night of sign up.
Yeah, that was first night of sign up was that. But and like another reason for the envelope-a-thon, like the All About Me paper, is it's for an opportunity for the church members to donate, but also to see like, oh well, I'm donating for Anna Beth. Like Anna Beth loves this about First United Methodist Church, and this is what Anna Beth hopes to get from this trip.
Yeah.
You know, it's a purpose. I want our young people to be familiar with our members, and our members to be familiar with our young people. Like it's more than just a donation. It's a connection. It's like, this is what I love about First United Methodist. This has been my favorite thing from Lake J that such and such donated to. Like it's that the purpose of it. It's more than just a fun trip. Like it's like building those relationships in that community. And I mean, and some of the kids were like, so I heard one of the kids say, "Why are you writing so much?" And the other one said, "Because I want them to know all about me, like all of it. Like they get to know every bit of it." And like they were just excited about that. Like they're excited. Some of them are waiting for somebody to ask them about themselves, you know.
Of course.
But because that's what, and one of them, that's what I told them. I was like, "Okay, boys, like I need y'all to write more than like a sentence. Like I love hunting. Like that's it's like I know y'all do more than just that."
I could probably guess which youth said that.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a way for you to get to know our young people.
Yeah.
There's no doubt every church struggles with crossing the intergenerational gap.
Yeah.
If you don't have teenagers in the youth program, if you don't have grandkids or children in the children's ministry, it's just hard. It's hard to make those connections, and so this is a way for us to cross that intergenerational gap. Well, I think that's good, and I'm excited. I've been skiing before Emily and I have on the same conference, and so I realized that there are no other chaperones that's ever gone skiing. So I told Emily that meant we get to be on the mountain with these kids that are going to be up there. It's a great time. It's not just about skiing. I will tell you, some of the most powerful worship moments I've had as a minister has been in the worship times of Elevate. And so Mike Howington, who you know, has preached here and has been working with both children and youth ministry, family ministry, been teaching parent seminars here. He actually is the coordinator, him and Weston Blaha and a few others that coordinate this trip. And so he is very encouraging for us, but also encouraging us to take our kids because it's a great time for them to go. I just want to say, if you have questions for Madison, if you have questions about youth ministry, give us a call.
Tips?
Tips. Don't make an open-ended opportunity. You'll have every tip in Grenada coming your way. But really, get to know Madison. I've heard some of you talk about meeting her. She is someone who is not simply focused on our young people. She is someone who's come to minister to our entire church family. And many of you have had those relationships. Hearing her going and sitting in the front yard or on the front porch with someone who is shut in right now because of a pandemic for over an hour, it's a blessing. And she is a blessing to our church. And so I hope that you will have an opportunity to spend some time with her and get to know her a little bit better. Just a couple of things. Want to remind you of questions, things that you'd like to see us discuss or want to hear us have conversations about here. Like I said, we might meet with another staff member next week. Might meet with another preacher. It might just be me preaching or doing a devotion or a Bible study. But we want to hear from you. What do you want this to be for you? A part of our Sunday night programming will also be a different young person or a different member of our church giving announcements of what's going on in the week. David Crawford's going to be sharing those with you in a short while from our TV studio. And so hope this is a time that's uplifting. It lets you be connected with us. It's a time that we can spend with you, and it's a relaxed setting where we're just having a conversation together. I love you guys. I hope all is well. Give us a call if you need anything from us. Peace. Hey guys, almost forgot. This morning was the first Sunday of Advent, and we are offering Advent devotionals for anyone who would like it. And so just let us know. If you'd like an Advent devotional, we can mail them to you, or you can pick them up here in the office. And for families, we have Advent calendars, and you are to open a different day. It has little windows that you can open all the way till Christmas, and it has a little message and image inside of it. So if you would like these for home during this Advent season, please let us know. Thanks.
It's David Crawford for a look at our week for the next following week. On Monday, November the 30th, it's Pam Boykin's birthday. Happy birthday, Pam. It's a little early, but happy birthday anyway. On Tuesday, December 1st, we got 7 a.m. morning glory, 7th through 12th grade. Be there if you're one of those grades, you know. At 6 p.m., we got the finance committee meeting in the fellowship hall. Yeah. On Wednesday, December the 2nd, we got 6:15, adult Bible study in the fellowship hall. Students will be in their designated areas. Thursday, December 3rd, we have an ad meet. 6 p.m., we got an ad council meeting in the fellowship hall. And on Sunday, December 6th, we got Sunday school in the fellowship hall at 9:15 a.m. and we got 10:30 a.m. Traditions worship. This is David for our peak of the week.